What if one of the most powerful tools for business transformation was sitting right under your nose, probably locked away in your IT department? We're talking about enterprise architecture. Think of it as the master blueprint for how your company's strategy, processes, and tech all fit together. And right now, it's going through a huge shift from a super niche technical thing to a strategic tool for the entire company. So let's just ask the question right out of the gate. In your company, is enterprise architecture a term everyone understands, or is it basically a black box that only the tech teams can open? For a long, long time, for most places, it's definitely been the black box. And to really get what's changing, we have to look back at the old playbook. For decades, enterprise architecture, or EA, was designed for a tiny, specialized audience. It was effectively kept up in an IT ivory tower, far, far away from the people actually making the day-to-day business decisions. So, what was the biggest barrier? Honestly, sheer complexity. For anyone outside that inner circle, trying to understand EA felt like trying to read a jumbo jet's wiring diagram just to figure out how to turn on your reading light. It was just intimidating. It felt like you needed a PhD to even talk about it. And all this complexity, it was kind of by design. The language of traditional EA was this wall of super dense diagrams and frameworks. It was a private language built for architects by architects, and it was completely impenetrable to anyone who wasn't in the club. And those walls were very real. I mean, you had specialist tools that only architects knew how to use. You had those technical diagrams we just talked about filled with an IT-only language. And what was the result? Every single time someone from the business needed information, it created a bottleneck. Everything required constant translation from a specialist. But that old way of doing things, it's fading, and it's fading fast. There's been a quiet revolution happening, breaking down all those walls. And it's all driven by a really simple, urgent need for the whole business to move faster and make smarter, more connected decisions. This really captures the whole pivot perfectly. On the left, you've got the old world, EA as this library of dusty blueprints, with the architect acting as a gatekeeper. But on the right, you have the new world, EA as a living, interactive model of the city that everyone can gather around and use to make decisions together. This new approach is really all about one thing: architecture for everyone. So forget the dense blueprints. Instead, think of it like a shared interactive map of your entire business, a map that literally anyone can use to find their way around. So who's using this new map? Well, just about everyone. Strategy teams needed to see the impact of new projects. Operations need it to understand how processes connect. Risk and compliance, they need it to spot vulnerabilities. And finance needs it to track the real cost of things. All these teams need access to the exact same map, and crucially, they need to be able to read it without needing a translator. And that really brings us to the core idea. The real revolution here isn't about making better diagrams for architects. It's about making the architecture itself understandable, navigable, and genuinely useful for the people who are actually running the business. And this is where the magic really happens. Just imagine a marketing manager who can instantly see how a new campaign is going to impact the customer journey across 5 different apps, instead of just guessing. Or a finance analyst who can pinpoint exactly where money is being wasted on redundant software. This is self-service intelligence. No IT ticket required. So this brings us to the real payoff. What's the tangible value in all of this? Well, it's all about changing architecture from a passive document into an active, critical part of the company's decision-making engine. So how does this actually create value? It's a pretty simple 3-step process. First, you simplify the architecture so everyone can get it. That simplicity then creates this really powerful shared understanding across teams that maybe never spoke the same language before. In that shared understanding, it directly enables faster, smarter, and more aligned decisions. When you boil it all down, it comes to this. As long as your architecture is a complex secret, it's just documentation, probably collecting dust somewhere. But the moment it becomes clear and accessible, it transforms into an active tool that creates real, measurable value. So here's the question I want you to take back to your own organization. Is your architecture a dusty document, or is it a dynamic decision tool? The answer to that question will tell you if you're stuck in the past or if you're building the future.